I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about something that has, to be honest, caught me a little off guard. It's a subject that wasn't on the list of topics that we put together when we were planning this series, but it's been inspired by a conversation my wife and I had recently about a book that she had read for a book club that she's part of, entitled Hannah Coulter by one of our favorite authors, Wendell Berry. It's a book about a couple and their rural life, about their joys and sorrows, about their life together, their marriage, their family, and in it, the Hannah Coulter character talks about the issue of hopefulness and compares and contrasts it to the issue of expectation. And we've been thinking a lot about that lately as we've been talking about the book and about life and about not just navigating life in this COVID-19 world and the circumstances that we're dealing with, but life in general, about expectations and about hopefulness. And, we talk a lot about expectations in our life. When we spend time with young couples prior to their getting married, we actually spend a whole session dealing with the subject of expectations, because expectations, expressed or unexpressed, that go unmet can be a dangerous thing. They can lead to bitterness and frustration and disappointment and skepticism and cynicism and all the things that come along with that. I don't think that that's a helpful way to live. In fact, Hannah Coulter has a line where she says something like this: to live without expectations is hard, but a good thing. To live without hope is harder, but it's a bad thing. You've got to have hope. You mustn't shirk it. After all, love hopes all things. Living with hopefulness, being hopeful in life, is very different than living with expectations. And we don't mean expectations in the way that we expect the sun to come up. We're actually talking about expectations along the lines of entitlement. And somehow we're owed something or deserve something, that we have the right to expect something from someone or some place or something, whether that's a loved one, a friend, the government, or even God. We start to think that we deserve it and we're owed it, that we're entitled to it. And that can have a really detrimental impact on our outlook, on our attitude, on our judgments and sensibilities, on our life and the way we live it. It's much better to live rather hopefully than to live with that kind of entitlement mentality and expectations. I was really encouraged recently. The men's soccer team at Cairn University posted on their Instagram site something that was part of their 11 as 1 series, and it was a simple quote. It said, entitled to nothing, grateful for everything. What a great encapsulation of this idea. The idea of expectations can get you into trouble, and it's very different from the idea of hopefulness. Hopefulness means expecting the best, but it's not an expectation for entitlement. It's hoping that something will happen, being hopeful for the best. And it has a positive impact on us, more than just being happy when something comes our way. It actually has an impact on the way we think about things, the way we feel about things, the way we act. When I think about the issue of hope and hopefulness, apart from the theological sense, where hope theologically, our hope that is in Jesus Christ, is stony and certain. It's something that we know will come to pass. But hopeful living, more like when you put a seed in the ground, you hope that it will sprout and bear fruit. If you expect that it will and it doesn't, you're going to get angry at the soil, at the seed, at the person who sold you the seed, at God for not causing it to rain or causing the sun to shine. Farmers know this. There's a hopefulness that comes from sowing seed, which is different from entitlement and expectation. When I think of hopefulness in that other sense, not the theological sense, but the general sense of life, I think about something that I spend quite a bit of time doing over the course of my life. I've been fly fishing since I was 13 or 14 years old, and tying my own flies for probably about that long. And it's a sport that gives me great joy. It takes place in beautiful and inspiring places. I enjoy the solitude of it. I enjoy the beauty of the surroundings. I enjoy sharing it with others. I have gotten great joy from teaching my own kids and others to enjoy the sport. But it isn't just something that makes me happy or gives me joy. It's challenged me and taught me things. It has taught me things in terms of the natural world, and it's taught me things about developing skills, and it's also taught me things regarding my outlook, particularly the issue of tenacity and patience and hopefulness and perseverance. It's a sport that requires quite a bit from us if we take it seriously and want to excel at it. But there's a great quote by John Buchan, who is the Scottish author and historian, and also served as the Governor General of Canada in the early part of the 20th century. Buchan says that the charm of fishing is that it's the pursuit of something elusive yet attainable, a perpetual series of occasions for hope. And that's the reality. That's the thing that we realize about fishing, and for me, fly fishing. It's that pursuit of something that is elusive yet attainable, and the perpetual series of occasions for hope. Every cast, every turn in the river, every rock that you see in a river that holds fish is an opportunity to catch a fish. But it isn't hopefulness that means you sit back and wait for it, or you simply throw a line out there and cross your fingers hoping that a fish will strike. It's hopefulness that actually sharpens your senses and your skills, that pushes you to want to be good at something, to read the water right, to know what the insect life is, to know what the conditions are, to read the weather, to get yourself in position, to get the right angle. And then knowing that if you do all of that and you make the perfect cast, there's no guarantee that fish is going to strike. You know, I've watched people on the stream who come to fly fishing with expectation rather than hopefulness. Their skills usually aren't that good. Their attitude isn't usually that good. They flail about the water. They make a cast. They don't catch something quickly. They sometimes throw their rod down, or at least hang their head and feel like, well, I should have caught something. I don't know what was going on. And they believe they've been entitled to a fish, and they are disappointed, frustrated, jaded, cynical, and they walk away angry and bitter. And the sport requires more of you. It requires hopefulness that leads to tenacity and perseverance and patience and the development of skill. And in the end, when you're hopeful and you approach it that way, what you find is that you're grateful for the things that come your way. You're grateful for the time on the water and the opportunities to pursue a fish. You're grateful for the fish you catch. There's a difference between hopefulness and expectation, not just in fishing, not just in farming, but in relationships and in life and in faith. There's a big difference between those two things, and Hannah Coulter is onto something. We should live life hopeful, looking for and seeking the best, but not allowing ourselves to expect that something will come our way. Fighting against that entitlement mentality, to be rather hopeful than given to unrealistic expectations. That's the key to avoiding being bitter and cynical and jaded and skeptical. It is to be hopeful, to be positive and optimistic, to work hard to sharpen your skills and senses, to persevere and be tenacious, and to look at things in life as a perpetual series of occasions for hope. It's not a bad way to live. It's a good outlook, and I think that it can be really practical and really helpful.